This is the last lesson of Chapter 11, which means you are basically ready for the test that's going to happen on Friday. Okay? Today we are talking about finding the volume of composed figures. Composed figures just means different rectangular prisms that are stuck together and become one. Okay? So like, for example, so your learning goal today is to be able to find the volume of combined rectangular prisms. So basically all you need to do is take what you know about finding separate rectangular prisms and then figure out what you need to do when they're stuck together. So what can you predict? How might you find the volume of composed rectangular prisms? It says, and you see this in your book too, the shape at the right, and of course during this presentation it's really at the bottom, is a composite figure. Composite figure is another word for composed figure, which is another word for combined figure, okay? It is made up of two rectangular prisms that are combined. How can you find the volume of this figure? Well, one way is we can use addition. We can break apart the solid figure into two rectangular prisms. So you can see now, instead of being one rectangular prism, it's two separate rectangular prisms, one that's green and one that's blue. Could we find the volume of the green prism and the blue prism and then add them together to find the combined volume?
Yes.
Let's take a look at how we can. All right, find the length, width, and height of each prism. We can see that the blue one is 10 inches by 4 inches by 2 inches. The green prism we can see is 2 inches by 4 inches, but we don't know the height. How might we be able to find the height? We can think that the total height of both prisms is 6 inches, right? When I stack them together, like this, the whole height is 6 inches, but we know that this part is 2 inches, right? So we can do 6 minus 2 equals 4. So over here, this is 4 inches. All right, now do we have all the measurements? Are we ready to find the volume of each prism? Yeah. Okay, we can find the volume using the area, or using the formula length times width times height. So what's the volume of the green prism? What's the length? Let's say 4. What's the width? 2. And what's the height? Okay, 4 times 2 times 4 is how many cubic inches? Siddharth? 32 cubic inches. Okay, let's look at the blue prism over here. What's the length? 10 inches. What's the width? 4 inches. What's the height? 2. Okay, so to find the volume, we do 10 times 4 times 2, which is, Ariel, 80 cubic inches. Now, when I want to find the combined volumes, all I need to do is add them together. So I do 32 cubic inches plus 80 cubic inches equals 112. So the volume of the composite figure is 112 cubic inches. Another way is if you don't want to add two different things together, you can use subtraction. You can subtract the volumes of the prisms formed in empty spaces from the greatest possible volume of a composite figure. So can you imagine here, instead of being two rectangular prisms put together, could this be one big rectangular prism with a hole cut out of it, with a chunk cut out of it? So what is the greatest possible volume this rectangular prism could have? What's the longest length it could have? 10 inches. What's the longest width it could have? 4 inches. And what's the longest height it could have if nothing was cut out? Okay. So what's the largest possible volume that would be possible with these measurements? 10 times 4 times 6 is, Claire? 240 cubic inches. But is that rectangular prism 240 cubic inches? No, because it has a big chunk cut out of it. Let's find out how much volume is in that empty space. So we have to find the length, which is right here. How do I find this length? I know that it's the total length of 10 inches minus this tiny little length up here of 2 inches. So what is the length of right here? 8 inches, yep. What about the width? What's the width of the missing space? Arishi?
4 inches.
4 inches, because it goes along the whole rectangular prism, yep. And what is the height? We can find this missing height in the same way we just found it for the previous way, right? Adam? 4, because it's the total length, 6, or the total height, minus this little bitty height over here. 6 minus 2 is 4. So the missing space, the volume of the missing space is 8 times 4 times 4, or what? Okay. So how can I find, if I know the whole biggest volume possible is 240 cubic inches, but it has an empty space of 128 cubic inches, how can I find the volume of that blue composed figure? Stuart?
Do 240, which is the total volume of the big rectangle.
240.
Minus 128, which is a small rectangle.
Good. And what do I get when I get the whole thing minus the empty space? Ariel? Good. Okay, so you can see if you use subtraction or if you use addition, you get the same answer.